Sonic Talk.
Well, hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 764, and for those of you who've perhaps been watching a bit of the pre-show, you'll have seen the shenanigans we've been going through, the sort of technical issues that our guests set themselves up to challenge to bring you this music technology podcast each week. So yes, before we get there, this is the music technology podcast. We talk about all things to do with music production, streaming, VR in this case, studio work, live production, software, synthesizers, drum machines, plugins, all that kind of world, and sort of examine the week's news, which in the summer can be a bit of a lean time, but there's still plenty to talk about because we bring you only the most interesting and able to chat guests, so there won't be any monosyllabic answers or anything, I promise you. But before we get to that, I just want to say thanks to everybody in the chat room. We've got our friends in IRC and Facebook and Twitch. You're all there, and YouTube, all brought together by the excellent software that was written by Dom and maintained by Wagyu. Very much appreciated. And also he's also moderating and keeping all the riff-raff out. So thank you very much, Wagyu. Very much appreciated. Before we get into any more stuff, I just want to introduce you to the concept of our Patreon, because it's a great consolation in these ad-lean times that we get support from you fine people. So if you're not already supporting us, maybe this will tip you over the edge, or maybe not. Hey, why not consider joining us on Patreon? We've been a bit more active recently. We've got a couple of recent posts. I posted a preview of the Soma Terror, which we've got in for review. If you have any questions there, you can leave them on the comments on Patreon. Also posted first of our 360 camera walkarounds from the recent Gearfest UK show. Not only that, but you'll also get ad-free content of everything that we post monetized to YouTube. You get access to the Sonic Talk pre-show. You get samples and exclusive video, some audio stuff as well. And if you post before the end of the show, you'll get your name in lights. That's assuming you go for the upper tier, which is $6 a month, which is barely anything really. Anyway, thank you very much for consideration, and for those of you who already support us, we appreciate it. And for those of you who are considering supporting us, thanks again in advance. Back to the show. Yeah. And if you do unlock, I did say name in lights. What I mean is your name will show up in the credits at the end of the show because it's done automatically. That's what I actually meant to say. But because I don't script it, I very rarely say what I need to say or mean. So, but there we go. That's the way it is. So anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got a full panel this week, and I'm going to introduce the two outer guests first, because Robin Vincent, who is also joining us, is really struggling to maintain the hardware he's going to try and demonstrate for us will fall asleep. So if we go on too long, then he won't be able to. He'll have to reboot everything, and it'll be a nightmare. But that voice you heard and those back of the classroom chuckles were from Paulee. Paulee from Magical Synth Adventure. How are you, Paulee?
Not bad, thanks. It's been quite a busy few months. Actually, just weeks, I think. It's been about a month since I was last on, I think. You had a break. You had a nice holiday. I saw your snaps. And
yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, I went to that vintage computing expo, and I did my first live set in about 3 or 4 years, since before COVID, and it was amazing. It went really well. The technology worked. The old 30-year computers worked. Spitting out MIDI data and samples and all that sort of thing, and people got a bit thrilled, at seeing it all come together. People were shaking my hand at the end of the evening. So I don't think I'm ever going to be the type of person that gigs all the time, because it is quite stressful, and there's a lot of it takes a lot out of you. But I think just doing one every few months is it's quite a nice way to meet people and make new friends. I made a friend with a guy called Harley, who makes music with Game Boys, 2 Game Boys.
Oh, God,
and it was absolutely incredible. But he had samples going and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's been good. And as far as the channel goes, I am shooting today a deep dive of the Roland V-Synth. So get your D-beams in the air.
Yeah, everybody. or something that you can attach to a D-beam. There's all sorts of appendages you could use with D-beams.
Yeah,
so
anything,
whatever it
anything
suits,
in
whatever
3D
fits
space.
the bill.
But yeah, no, it's been good. So thanks.
Excellent.
For asking.
Well, if you're gigging, I should also point out we do have. I forgot to do this, but it's the whole coming up thing that I forget to do. I've got Soma Terror review almost coming. We've also got now. I think if I hit this, will it work? I think I can just do that, and it's no, it didn't. Oh well, never mind.
Johnny Cash.
We've got the new. I think actually maybe it's this one. Let me just find it. Sorry, it's there. There we go. It's this one. So EMOM Dates. We've got a date set for EMOM, which is the 8th of September. And so if you want to join us on EMOM, we're doing Friday the 8th of September in Bath. We've still got slots available. So I don't know, Paulie,
nice.
maybe if you're in the mood for gigging, you might be available. If you want to find out more about tickets, bit.ly/SonicEMOM3 will take you there. And there's also a link to the form if you want to sign up to be a performer to this or any
brilliant.
future ones. Sorry, it's been a long time, but we were hoping to do it in the summer, but summer just got too frantic anyway. So I will try and move on because I do know that it's like it's like Robin's holding something heavy in the air. We put him in a sort of technological stress position. Robin, there he is with his VR headset on. But I'll say hello to Gaz first, and then we'll come back to you, Robin, then we can get straight on to the first topic. Also, Mr. Gaz Williams there. Gaz Williams, YouTube artiste and professional bass player and all of those things. Doing a live show tonight, Gaz?
I am. I'm going to do a live show tonight. So please join me 8 p.m. UK time on the Gaz Williams show. I've got a few ideas. I haven't quite decided. There's a possible guest who I may hear from during the course of this show. So if they confirm,
okay.
But I've got a few ideas. I've recently just got a bass guitar that has blown my mind as well. It's an alembic. Now that is really
level 42 style.
well,
Mark King's bass of choice.
Well, yeah, amongst many. Stanley Clarke. I tell you what, if you want to know what the alembic sounds like, one of the most classic examples you could possibly find is The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. Ding, 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 ding. And if you listen to that and think that ain't a P bass, it's an alembic. And actually, it's a fretless bass as well. It's not overtly a bass. And
didn't alembics have like LEDs in the fretboard or some of them?
They can do. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Crucially and historically, mega important because they were the first ever active instruments. So
they know what they're doing.
Well, they were part of Owsley Stanley. Owsley Stanley built the Grateful Dead's Wall of Sound, the most amazing PA system in history. People who heard it still swear that it's the best sound. And when you see pictures of the Wall of Sound, you think, yep, that looks pretty cool. But the design for the Wall of Sound extended from the PA right through to the instruments right through to the PA. So Alembic were actually based in the HQ of the Grateful Dead back in the day. So it's all kind of all inextricably linked. It's got history about that bass used on The Chain by John McVie in Fleetwood Mac. Not only was it fretless, it actually had a stainless steel fretboard as well. So,
wow! No wonder it was so clangy.
Yeah. But I mean, it was one of the first bass lines I ever learned to play. I remember being in school playing it to people. Everyone was like, "Wow!" I mean, it's actually super simple to play, but it's really embedded into me. And of course, when I got the Alembic, I had to play The Chain, and it is
that's the first thing.
Well, yeah, it is. You just go, okay, that is an Alembic sound, albeit maybe extremely shiny with that stainless steel fretboard. But I digress. So I may see some Alembic action tonight. Oh yeah, one last thing about the Alembic. It's the one that I've got. It's like it's called the Essence. It's a more of a simpler one, but it's just got like a volume and a pickup control, but it's got crucially a low pass filter that's quite resonant as well, and just the one control. So you just got the one control. And
interesting.
I mean, I got about 14 bass guitars. I've never had anything remotely like this. It is pretty mind blowing. So yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you, Gaz. And Robin, you still with us? You're managing to survive? You're not starting to tremble like
Beat Saber at the moment.
Oh, nice. Robin, Molten Music Tech, YouTuber, journalist, and all-round good egg, and man who's game for this kind of business. How are you doing, Robin? What's coming up on your channel, assuming it's not a Korg Gadget review?
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, funny enough, I'm doing my Molten Monthly this morning, filmed that, so I'm going to be editing that down. That should be out tomorrow with a bit of luck. All the latest news from that thing. So that's been filling my time at the moment. That and playing with.
Do you need a holiday, Robin?
I kind of feel I do.
I can recommend them. I recommend them. But I suppose what we should probably do is come straight to the first topic, which is Korg Gadget. So this is why Robin's got the VR headset on, because he's going to attempt to show us a little bit about it. But I do have to press a button first, and so I'm going to do that. So let's see if I actually get this right. Okay, so let's see.
With BGM
That's
Cast.
not it, is it? God damn. It's because I pressed the wrong button. There we go.
Hey.
So yeah, Korg Gadget has, I think it's officially been released. It's available for MetaQuest and MetaQuest Pro. I'm not entirely sure what that means, because it has been around for a bit, but I think we're now at a sort of further up the food chain release. So you can now gadgetize in the privacy of your own helmet. So it's like a virtual studio become even more virtual. So let's just get straight to it. So here's Robin in his virtual studio. Do you get to design it, Robin, or is it just
no,
as it
is
comes?
just as it is. Let me immerse myself, and then I can give you a little bit of a tour if I can really find myself. Hang on a sec. So I no longer see you. I only see my studio.
You're ready to
am I going to keep headbutting the microphone? So we've got things over here like this little synth. I can poke at it. I can move things about. There's a potential of sound.
We don't. I don't think we can hear anything. Which is we're just going to have to make it. But it's interesting that we. So do you have to actually physically move to zoom in and zoom out, or is there something that you can do?
Yeah. See, I can sit back and have a look at my screens up here with me stuff on, or I can look about and I've got a nice synth there, or one over here.
Yeah.
Is that the arcade one?
Yeah.
I mean, because Gadget is really, it's considered, it was one of the first iOS apps. Oh, there we go. I'm hearing it now. Oh, look at that.
Do you hear some sound?
We do. I mean, I think as a sort of meta experience. Oh, here we go.
Look at these wave tables and stuff.
Wow.
Okay. Right, let's just have a quick summary. I mean, basically, a quick summary is it's available. You can get it at the Steam shop. It says it's very much beta. It's $29, and it's an impressive thing to see. And but it's immersive, but perhaps not from the outside. So I'm just wondering, Robin, I don't know if Robin can hear us anymore because we've lost him. We have. What's it actually like? Is it intuitive? Because what I've seen, there's some great videos by VJ Franz K, who's done some tours around it, and it looks like it's the sort of thing that using a complicated piece of software before you learn the key commands. It feels like it's at that stage where everything is really difficult and fiddly, and there are no sort of commonality gestures that drop in and out of record. It feels like there's maybe some problems with that. So, Robin, can we bring you back into the world?
Yes, well, possibly. Yeah, I mean, I can. Sorry about the microphone. I mean, the problem, just to demonstrate, I suppose, if you can see my controllers, is that in order to grab something, I have to move. I've got one joystick which is moving between parameters, and another joystick which moves that parameter. So it's very, very intentional, but also desperately laborious. So doing anything is just it's a struggle. I mean, it's fun. It sounds nice in the right environment, obviously not through the streaming. But, I mean, this is a beautiful little synthesizer sitting here. I've no idea what this Miami thing does. And there's some wonderful sounds coming out. But to control those knobs is you'd just rather be doing anything else. I think. So you're going to be switching to a game.
I'd rather be doing anything else. I'm just going to write that down. That is definitely the show title.
I'd rather be doing anything else. Than watching Sonictalk.
So I suppose the interesting thing here is, for me, I mean, my kind of tagline, and it's a very cheap kind of shot, is it seems like a problem, a solution looking for a problem to fix. And that's the sort of thing that we end up with this thing. I mean, it feels like, if you're trying to control everything with essentially this, it's like working on something with boxing gloves rather than with the finesse and the dexterity of your fingers. And it just so I mean, like you say, you'd rather be doing anything else. But if I come to you first, Gaz, because you love Korg Gadget, and I know loads of people think Korg Gadget is great. John Birch, who did set at our last EMOM, a lot of the stuff that he did was in Korg Gadget. He loves it, and I know it's a great piece of software, right? So it's good to see Korg on the cutting edge. But what do we need this for?
Kind of. I mean, I'm sure Robin can verify this. As I'm looking at that, though, it looks like they have not really ported it in any sort of meaningful way. It looks like they've just dumped the kind of graphics across. It doesn't look like they extrude properly in like a kind of 3D sort of way. It looks kind of like a crude version of Gadget, which I would have thought something for that platform would need a ground up rethink, and I think they've just kind of ported it, and I reckon the laboriousness is that. I mean, if you're using Gadget,
it is better looking. It is, just to say, it is better looking in real life. I mean, when I'm looking at it, you are having to cope with the whole focus issues and that sort of thing. Sorry, my mic's a little hot. So there is that to enjoy. Okay,
but it still is
clearer and nicer than it looks through the streaming thing.
Right.
Fair enough. But it still, to me, looks like they've just literally plonked it across. They're not necessarily considered those controllers maybe, or how to maximize that. And
maybe there's just too much to control with such a sort of a blunt device as that.
Well, what made Gadget really great when it first appeared was they looked at the medium of the touchscreen medium, which was becoming fairly mature at the point that Gadget came out, but they'd looked at that and they'd sort of designed a way of making an interface that was superbly set up for that thing. When it ported across then later and to be to desktop computers, there was a little bit of chin scratching because you've got these simplified synthesizers running on a platform that can run, sophisticated synthesizers. But, so be it. And then we also saw Gadget then appear, was it on the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, the Switch, that's right. Your video's frozen, by the way, Gaz. I don't know if your battery's gone on your camera or your power's gone, but feel free to carry on.
Okay, so let's just I'll just switch to this.
I'm glad it's not me this week. I must admit, I feel quite liberated that it's not my fault this week. Woohoo! Yeah, Gaz, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, but
am I still frozen on you?
Yeah, you are. It's frozen in a different way. Oh, there we go. We're back now. That's all right. We've got you.
No idea where that is. So seeing Gadget then move across to the Nintendo platform, the Switch, and you kind of go, okay, this is kind of interesting. They're taking this thing. Is that what it was? Yeah, okay.
No, it wasn't Gadget. It was something like that, wasn't it? Yeah, but yeah.
No, that was on a Nintendo DS. Sorry,
yes, that was a different thing. You're right, absolutely right.
That was like the MS-10 or MS-20 kind of port. I know, and then they ported it across and they were trying to sort of trial it as as like a multiplayer game with multiple people partaking in a Gadget session, which I think was actually quite an interesting idea. It would have had to necessitate 4 people all having a copy of it, I think, and their own Switch. Yes. And so it becomes, there's this slightly unlikely scenario. However, they're kind of stretching Gadget's kind of initial premise as being an iPad only, and then actually it was iPad, and then it ported to iPhone. So we've seen like this thing of Gadget going on and on and on, which is just kind of curious. So it's kind of unsurprising that it's ended up on the Meta Quest sort of platform. Is it only Meta Quest then?
I don't know. That's what it said on the Steam thing. But sorry, you would know, Robin, because you've obviously just downloaded it. So.
Yeah, mine's an Oculus 2. Is that MetaQuest 2 now? Is that what they call it? So
I'm not sure.
So mine's like almost just the more recent version of the basic Oculus from Facebook, from Meta. But as it's available on Steam, then it will pretty much run on anything that connects to that. So if you've got a harnessed one, I would have thought that would also work. But mine was the standalone, even though I had the cable plugged in just for power, because that was my problem. I was running out of power. It is standalone. It runs on that. I could sit in the garden and be surrounded by these synthesizers. That is, completely feasible. And it sounds all right. And you can use it. It is usable. And it does feed into this idea of trying to make the music making more immersive rather than a mouse and virtual instruments, to try to generate the excitement of a hardware situation around yourself. It has things going for it, but it's like I say, I'm not sure it's worth the effort. And also I can only stand it for about 20 minutes before I just have to put it down,
Yeah, I suppose so. I just want to say, Gaz, your video is frozen again, but I'll come to Paulie now and maybe you can wrangle. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we all, as people who are into music technology, this is the sort of thing that we feel is promising. We're going to see all of this stuff coming, and as we know, I've banged on about for a lot. Apps like the Korg Gadget and all the music apps are the things that help launch these kind of new interfaces, such as touchscreen and the iPhone and whatnot. They're integral in bringing this to market. So you think people would be focusing on them? I wonder whether the person who came up with all the good stuff for Gadget has left, and now they're just porting the original code to other platforms. I don't know.
Yeah, I love Gadget, by the way. I use it mainly on my iPhone. So essentially, is my mic okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I use it on the iPhone just to do sketches on the go. Between that and Synclavier Go, I've pretty much got the power of a whole studio in my pocket. So I can actually do a little screen recording or export a wave and send it to the director and go, what do you think about this this little, riff or something like that? As regards the VR thing, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because growing up as a kid in the 90s, VR was such a thing. There was these massive arcade virtuality helmets with a game called Pterodactyl Nightmare, I think it was called, where you had to shoot at pterodactyls on a chessboard with some stairs. The graphics were quite primitive, but and then the Virtual Boy, of course, from Nintendo, and you couldn't play it for more than half an hour without getting headaches or something like that with a red screen. So it seems like the technology is still quite janky, but that's not to say that it won't in the future, be developed into something amazing, because it would be really cool to have a room full of virtual synths where you could, maybe it'll be some kind of Nintendo Power Glove kind of thing where you can grab the sliders with. I didn't say knob.
That would make sense.
That you can grab the sliders with in order to make sounds, and you could be like, have a mini Moog in front of you and there could be some haptic feedback or something. But then, of course,
you're right there, yeah.
Then, of course, like a young person could say to one of us, with a hardware studio, why are you bothering with that? I've got all of this, on my phone kind of vibes. And we'd be like, we'd shake off this.
Yeah, well, there is that. Robin, I mean, you've obviously got the headset, Robin. And
yes.
What I'm wondering that are there kind of like norms? With mouse and right click, there are certain norms and sort of click and drag and things that we get with touch interfaces that have become a normalized set of commands. Is there that kind of language in the VR world, or is it very much the Wild West and, lots of things will do lots of different things depending on what they've designed in? I mean, and so we're looking for perhaps a gestural language that will make sense of a lot of things at the same time, that once you've learned it, you then you just replace what you're seeing with better and better graphics, but essentially the movements and the things that you do will be translatable. I mean, what's it like for other stuff that's perhaps a bit more high budget? Yeah,
it just needs to be basic. I mean, you've got this, which is can you see? Let me put it like that.
I can,
so you've got like a joystick and a couple of buttons and the triggers. There's a side trigger as well. I mean, in as much as climbing a mountain, it's pretty effective. You can grab hold of things, you can pull yourself about, move around, swap handholds, that kind of thing. Or shooting things, obviously, with the triggers is easy, and reloading, blah, 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 blah. So working for games, hitting things around, pressing a couple of buttons, or even moving things around, you can do in quite good detail in games where it's sort of more like adventure games, you're unlocking things or opening boxes, that kind of thing. It works, but you only have a couple of digits worth of power, of control. I think when Apple talks about its eye scanning business, that might be revolutionary, because you can skip from control to control very simply, potentially, as opposed to jumping from one to another as I'm trying to do, or pointing, clicking again. Oh no, okay, now I can control it. So, and I would also say that every game is different. So I
imagine most games are not quite. You're not executing quite the degree of macro level control that you're being asked to do in this situation, right? So that's.
But I'm diffusing a bomb. I've diffused a bomb, and that that's relatively
that's fine.
Relatively tricky. Big
that's
pair
a lot
of
jeopardy.
clippers comes in.
Can I say something that might be relevant, or it might be completely irrelevant, and I don't actually know exactly what it means, but some Korean scientists today have announced the first room temperature ambient pressure superconductor. Now, to some of you, that's going to be a big deal. You might have to explain it to me why that's a big deal.
I need to sit down.
I don't know what that. I guess it's a power generation source, presumably, that is doesn't generate a lot of heat. I mean, that's what I would get from that, but I don't know at all.
Okay,
that's a guess.
Well, maybe this episode of Sonictalk will be, marked out as such, as because that was such.
Where were you when they announced the ambient temperature superconductor?
Room temperature ambient pressure superconductor. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it was
I
me.
know where I was, and it's on record. Wow. It was. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's worth. I suppose the thing is, it does feel like we're all struggling to find a way to praise this. Apart from the fact it's good, it's being done. It just needs to be done better. It's not. I think the gaming controls are very specific. They're not the same as, fine control you get on synthesizer interfaces. It's just not the same thing, So you sort of almost need maybe another controller that has touch feedback, so it knows which knob you're turning, and that's pre-mapped. So you do have a hardware interface, and you don't have to hold those kind of things, which only give you that level of thumb and finger control. So maybe that's the answer. I don't know. Something to dwell on. Anyway, I'm just going to bring in a message from our friends over at iZotope. Indeed, the Music Essentials bundle for 2023, from ideation, I do love that word, to mastering. It's packed with all the instruments, effects and plugins to inspire you. This is everything you need to make music, from Playbox Unique, randomized sound design to Ozone Elements, in one easy mastering tool there. And the best part, for every purchase, they'll be donating to Beats by Girls, helping empower the next generation of women and gender-expansive people through music and technology. All for just $49. Don't forget to use the code Sonic10 to get an extra 10% on that, which we think will probably happen. So if you go to iZotope.com/Sonictalk, you may well get an additional 10%. It seems to work on all their other deals, and we do thank them very much for their continued support. It's very much appreciated. Okay, well, what shall we have next? I suppose while we're on the subject, I mean, I think the thing is about this, particularly when we've got a sort of reasonably quiet time of the summer, AI and machine learning, all those things are going to be, and VR are going to be big, because that's when, I suppose, people announce these sort of things because they don't have to do a big launch. I guess I don't know, but this is an interesting one. So, but essentially, what we have here, I'll play this and we'll discuss.
With BGM Cast for Bridgecast, adding royalty-free music to your gaming streams has never been easier. The Bridgecast hardware is a simple, all-in-one solution for pro-level live stream audio and effects. Easily control different audio sources conveniently and efficiently.
So I'll summarise because that'll probably be less painful than listening to that rather generic voiceover. Far too jolly. So essentially, Roland have got the. No, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Bridgecast, which is a piece of software which is used. This kind of the idea is to be able to stream your game audio and your mic and have a return and make that sort of whole audio routing thing less of a nightmare. You can. Why? I must ask this. You can affect your voice. Why do they put these things on every single Roland? Gaz has got a pretty semi-pro video mixer and it's got a voice changer on it. I mean, what the hell is that all about? I don't know anybody who would really need that. I'm sure Gaz is actually going to demonstrate any second now. But anyway, I mean, part of the interesting thing about this is what they've also done, because you're streaming, they've added a subscription opportunity to a library which allows you to use this kind of royalty-free library music, and that was where the news ended. And I wrote back to them and said, where's the music come from? Because Roland don't have any library music as far as I know. And I was told it's basically it's AI, and it's AI generated but curated by humans. And I'm just trying to find, I'll see if I can find the actual, because there's a link here which I was going to use as well. Let me see, Roland, I'm just trying to find the thing. Yeah, so this is provided by Amadeus Code, who are, they basically make AI stuff. So let me just see if I can bring that in. I might be able to throw it up into the browser, and we can hear the sort of thing that it may or may not do. Let's have a look. Submit. Does that go? Is that gonna should? Oh no. Let me see. It's probably my. Yeah, it doesn't. Oh, that's good. Excellent. Well, I'm glad that hasn't worked. But ultimately, I'm trying to find if I can actually get the URL up there, because it's Amadeus Code. Let me see if I might be able to get it in here. Let me just try and type it in, because it may be that. Let me see. It's Amadeus Code. HTTPS Amadeus Code. Let's see where it was. I'll put Amadeus Code, there we go, AmadeusCode.com. It might bring it up. Yeah, here we go. I've got it. So if I should be able to bring, yeah, so here we go. Now, if I can scroll down, so this is the service that they provide. Oh, wow, okay. Let me see if I can find, there are some examples. I don't know why this is in Japanese, but this is the sort of stuff you'll be able to get, and I'll have to say, I was not especially impressed with this, and it's not working there either. Fantastic. I'm so pleased. Hold on. I know I do this. Here we go. This is, I forget what, there's some sort of generic kind of pot. I think there's a future-based one. Here we go. So we can have this. So imagine, I guess by using this, I'm not going to get any copyright strikes from playing music. But I just do wonder, there is a sort of, this is curated by humans. I just do wonder what criteria they give their curators. I mean, it's all okay, and so you get a mix, you get stems, you get a karaoke version, you get all of this stuff. So, and I think the price for it's something like $270 a month or $170 a month if you're just a streamer. So it's quite an investment. I think obviously they've done a deal with Roland. It's $3,000 a month for a more generic approach to API, where you get a certain number of API calls. So they've obviously done a deal with them. I just thought it seems like a really strange direction to go in, and especially when your whole company is designed on sort of encouraging creativity and using their stuff for music, and yet they're serving up this kind of pap. I don't know. What do you think?
They took our jobs anyway. I've listened to a lot of these examples of AI music, and there's one thing that I think is missing from a lot of it, and that's torment. Essentially, you need torment to I think, to create something that has a kind of, or at least a little bit or a little bit of world weariness in order to create something that has a bit of a slightly angular human imperfect feel. So they just need to
interesting.
They just need to kind of, you know, give the AI some adversity.
Right.
I don't know how they do that. Make them fight one another in a Hunger Games style battle. That should do it.
And then do some music.
Yeah. And then do some
music. But then
music,
if I want to press, how would that would have to happen immediately. I press my button, I want something with a bit of adversity in it, then they've got to go and off and fight a tournament, do all of this stuff in a really supercomputer time, which is probably 10 times real time or 1,000, and then come back and have a go at writing
and then come
music,
back
right?
battle weary and then write your yeah. But I was saying to a friend, if Raymond Kurzweil's thing comes true and we have a singularity and we can all turn ourselves into AIs, I'd like to compare a version of myself with no adversity and trauma against one that they left alone and see how the music would differ, how adverse life experiences affect what you write, essentially.
Well, I suppose the answer is that there is no... No, that sounds like a really interesting idea. There is no life adversity for an AI. I mean, no. I'm generalising massively. I mean, maybe there is, but as far as we know, not totally conscious. Robin, is this something? I mean, because you're a YouTuber, we're all YouTubers, and music is a really big deal. I mean, we're going to be doing obviously our EMOM, and I want something I can play in between the sets. I wonder how I could go to Roland and say, would you like to supply me with a playlist of tracks I can play in between really interesting human powered acts in each EMOM? But I feel that would be wrong somehow. It doesn't feel like that's the right thing to do.
Maybe. I mean, in some ways I think about this as being, I mean, how different is it from your home keyboard with its automatic accompaniment with you just punching in a couple of chords and it playing for 5 minutes? Is it any more different from that? Is there any more intelligence behind it than that? I mean, I guess ultimately automatic accompaniment has been designed by somebody at some point, but it will generate background music for you. And also in terms of angst, I don't know that library music really has that vibe. I mean, it's one of those remarkable areas that a lot of people work in. A lot of people generate library music for lifts, for conferences, for answer machines, you know, and there's a whole career choice down in the library music arena, and I think we let it go at our peril, because there's a lot of people who will lose out, who are quietly just doing their little bits for conference and little bits for here and there. And I think it's a shame.
But do you think? I mean, it's the same. It's in the same way that some articles, like listicles, you see them all the time, or maybe stuff on financial advice, which is just nobody wants to write that kind of dull stuff. Do you think people actually want to write lists for music? Do you think maybe, or if AI generated the stuff, they could just voice it and tweak it in a better way? It would save them maybe the angst themselves of having to come up with another 40 minutes of elevator music this week. I mean, it might, that might actually be a human kindness in a weird kind of way.
I suppose, but if you've got a career making music, it's a career making music, no matter how lowly it may feel, and that perhaps is not an avenue that you can slip into anymore. I don't know, but I mean, I hear what you say, and it would be good to use AI in such a way that it replaces the dull stuff that we do. But sometimes the dull stuff is all we have,
Yeah.
And sometimes that's better than nothing.
What pays the bills? Doing that dull stuff.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree. I'm not. I'd like to. I'm not belittling what people might do. It's just there may be more. It may be just as rewarding to kind of take what's been done and try and make it more, because those sounds, you'd think at a bare minimum that I would want. Roland would say, yeah, this is fine, all this AI generated music, but can you use the Zencore engine to voice it all? Because then it would at least be better than what we were hearing.
You can chuck a ring mod on it.
Exactly. Someone's job is to take that and just controllerize it, so they're just XY padding the whole performance so it has some kind of movement. I don't know, Gaz. I mean, I'm sure you're a live musician. This stuff is kind of in a way anathema, but there are times when you just need background stuff that nobody really is paying any attention to, perhaps.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to use the silly voice that I was going to use. It's taking me until now to have the opportunity. Well, I was recently listening to KPM's, Jazz Graphics and the Spy set. It's one of the KPM compilations of library music from probably about 1969, 1970. You know, the ones with just a plain green square cover. And the thing that was occurring to me, like listening, I mean, those KPM records from that time are just amazing, beautiful, and really diverse. And I was thinking about how, like, library music back then was
Mellotron tapes. You know, same thing, right?
Yeah, good point. So I just wonder if these kind of AI things are just making music in a very small, even though it seems like big, it's actually quite small when you look at it objectively, what the sort of music that it's making. And I'd be really surprised if it produced music outside of what I would predict it to kind of come within. For instance, like using that KPM as an example, there's some like sort of thematic things in that which, I just can't see how AI.
Maybe I'm also, if you've got real musicians playing them, it's like, I would like the bass player to be quite excited during this track, or the drummer is a bit drunk and slightly aggressive. Can we? And there's some tension between the keyboard player and the trumpet player. I mean, those are the sort of things that make a difference, right?
We did it. I worked on a soundtrack last week in St George's Hall in Bristol. On a stage, and it was set out like an early 70s Italian horror film soundtrack. So we had a 10-piece string section, a vibraphone player, grand piano, bass guitar, guitar, and saxophone, clarinet. So it was quite big ensemble. Yeah, and I was DI'd as a bass. Is probably the better thing to DI in that situation, but everything else is kind of all bleeding together, and as so they were like themes, but they were also sort of incidental sections, and the way that the sound was kind of into the whole St George's Hall in Bristol is a beautiful sounding space.
I've heard it,
so the complexity of that sound, of all those instruments, and the way the sound is working in that hall, even just doing like sustained sort of like string pad, more or less, is just full. It's just full of specialness. So I think, and that specialness is, I don't know.
It's indefinable, isn't it, to a degree?
Yeah. So like this AI stuff, it's just kind of chasing a particular thing, really, isn't it? I think computery, music that you make in the box, I suppose, being the thing that this will ultimately do. But it's interesting. As a company, though, look what they've just released at the same time through, is it the Boss GM 800? I love Boss guitar synths, and now they've just, so you mentioned the Zencore, so now the new generation, and there's a new generation of pickup as well, which I've had various ones over the years, so I'm like, ooh, my antenna is up about this. So, I always think that about Roland, though. They're always trying out new ideas, so aren't they? And you look at their history, and there are, there's a whole array of failures as well as successes.
Sure. I suppose you could say that. Yeah. I suppose the only thing I would say is they generally go large, so it's like we've got D-beams and they're in everything for 10 years. It's not like next year we'll try something, and the Supernatural and the Zencore, it's all being heavily milked, and it's the way, it's just the way that they operate to a degree. And I suppose with some other companies are a little less sort of juggernauty, where it's like, this is where all of our research and development is going, and that's where everything is going to be like that for this long. And if it's not terribly exciting, then you've got like 5 years almost of sort of, I'm not saying that that's what's happening with Roland, because I think the Zencore stuff sounds really good, and some of it, but then they go back to ACB for what have they done that's ACB? Yeah, ACB on the S1 tweak synth, which I think, and it sounds great, and it's a really good thing, and it's got nothing to do with Zencore at all. And you think, what? It's mad. Yeah, so hits and misses, I suppose. I don't know. Sorry, Robin, did I come to you? Have I bypassed you so far in this?
No, but just to add, you've got to look at the use case scenario as well. I mean, who is it for? It's for podcasters and streamers, which is a huge market. And they just want something they can run in the background, which is not going to get a strike on their stream.
Indeed.
You know, job done for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's 4 of us here. Any of us going to use it? Hands up. Well, I mean, I don't know how big. I mean, when you say it's a huge market, I mean huge as in as big as the home keyboard market. I mean, I suppose in many ways.
No. Home stream. No, you got to think about gaming streamers. That's who it's for. It's for people who are streaming Fortnite. Yes. There are gazillions of those.
Gazillions. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think that's an interesting. Sorry, go, Garcia.
No, just to say it's quite sobering when you see the viewing figures that some of these gamers get. You know, when we've had a successful video, it's just like nothing compared to Game World. But anyway.
Yeah, I know, you're absolutely right. Well, so maybe what we need is a music bed, AI music bed underneath everything. I mean, I find that quite distressing when there's just unnecessary music under people talking. It's like, why is that even there? It's just like, it's like they didn't quite have enough confidence that the content that they're making, the creative output was quite interesting enough. So they put something else in. But again, that just makes it even more bland. It's bizarre, isn't it? But I suppose that it will have a purpose. I mean, there's no denying it. Okay, so what was I going to look at? I don't know if I want to go to another old man shouting at clouds kind of topic, because it feels like we've done it. So let's have a look at this one. Let's check this one out. This is kind of... So this is the new Expressive E Imagine updates, physical synth update. I was quite proud of my Let's Get Physical headline, but, it looks like it's being played on a push, and it's got some really lovely sounds. I mean, it's been updated to be native on Apple Silicon M1 and M2. There's 40 new presets with it. You can actually connect the Touche to it and get some really good expression as well. And it's easy to forget this stuff because Osmos is just is sort of hogging the headlines for them. And I imagine it's quite hard to let anybody know about this. But I thought it was worth mentioning because physical stuff in itself is very interesting, but also the fact... Oh, here we go. Here's a Touche. Pretty good, actually. I know, I like this stuff, and I always forget. I've got a Touche. I never plug it in because I can't, it's just something that, you just think, I have to remember to assign it, and it sort of gets forgotten about for the... I know, Gaz, you were very keen on it because you got one, didn't you? Do you still use yours? I mean, yeah, you do? Okay. Oh, great. I'm glad to hear that. Right there.
Expressive E instruments, I think, get really overlooked. I mean, Noisy that came before it, fantastic instrument. I mean, they integrate beautifully with the Touche as well, but the instruments are really interesting with excellent preset libraries as well. I'm just not that into computers anymore. I just don't hardly use them, and it's a bit of a shame. Because those ones, I think, are some of the most interesting ones I've heard. That Imagine is brilliant. It's well worth exploring. I think things like that lend itself to the Touche and indeed the Osmos. I'm guessing
stuff with good control,
good control, and with that physical modeling quality. I remember years ago I was using Piano Tech, which is a physical modeled piano. With a Roland hand sonic and playing like a kind of bongo piano. It just didn't work with sample-based pianos. They're just
because you get the round robin effect all the time. Yes, I can imagine.
It's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's sort of but I think with when you're using like either Osmos or Touche, and there's such a kind of physical way that you can interact with it. I think having something that's physics based, they match up really, really well. So it kind of makes sense that that Expressive E are making products like this. Noisy as well. Noisy is a brilliant, unique take on I think the name might put people off in a way, although there are some brilliant some noisy patches, but yeah, brilliant stuff. Imagine, thumbs up from me. Love it.
It's on offer at the moment, discounted to €83 from 138. I just want to say Steve Abel says it doesn't support MP. I can't say whether it does or not, but that's worth investigating, because you think it would, but I guess maybe the computing power would be a little bit too demanding for it. Robin, I mean, I know a lot of your work and your kind of, certainly your professional front is devoted to modular and things. I mean, I can't think if there was an Egan Matrix module, I think, wasn't there, announced? I mean, do you think is physical modelling something that you're interested in? Because it started off quite a coarse and unfinessed concept, but now we're getting to really high detail, aren't we, with some of these things?
No, I think so. I mean, it's a beautiful interface as well they've put together for that Imagine synth, but in terms of modular, you've got things like the qubit surface and of course the mutual instruments rings and things which are essentially physical modeling and generating a sound. So that's certainly something that exists to try to create an interesting string sound or a struck sound or a skin sound within modular is very, very welcome. It's not all analog, we do like to have other approaches to this sort of thing.
It's kind of the country and western quote, isn't it? We've got both kinds of music. You could say that we've got both kinds of modular. We've got analog and we have digital. It's a similar sort of vibe, I suppose. Yeah, but no, fair enough. I mean, do you have any of the old physical modelling stuff? There's the Technics, isn't there? The WX.
I've got the Technics one.
And and the Prophecy. That was modelling, wasn't it? Was it Prophecy,
I don't have the Prophecy. The thing with the WSA is it's got these couple of circular controllers, so you can kind of. And I guess that I agree with everything that's been said on the control surface. You want something that you can have very fine control over. I've got one patch which sounds like those wood boxes that acoustic guitarists just stomp on. That and an acoustic bass together. So you can kind of get this kind of, it feels like you're out on the prairie somewhere, do you know what I mean? And it's all synthesis, but it sounds so acoustic when you just hit it right. And in terms
horse with
of
tuned
control,
hoofs.
A horse with tuned hoofs. I've got this Paulee boot rip-off of the Expressive E, which I think is quite similar. It does like pressure and it's got X, Y, and you can kind of, do this with it. You can stroke it nicely.
It's less. So I think it's good. It's slightly less sensitive. You don't get the same level of like where you could do that real brrrm, which you can do with the touche. It's very, very sensitive for that sort of stuff. It's different.
I've got to say similar though, even if it's not as good, it's great for morphs on the Paulee boot, because you can set up two quite different patches and then just kind of find a beautiful point in between them. That you'd never come up with on your own. And I think it's the same with most physical modelling instruments. Let's be frank, most of them have parameters which are quite complex to understand. They're not like simple things like cutoff or oscillator frequency. That they all kind of exist in an ecosystem together. So sometimes these physical controls can get you to a place within one of those patches where you might not be able to quite understand how you could get to ordinarily. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? There seems to be a lot of really good work, certainly coming from France on this sort of notion of control and fit and modelling. There's AAX as well, who are French, and I'm sure there are others. I mean, I'm sure there are other nationalities, but French, some of the French designs, Touche and Arturia and AAX, they're all kind of doing some really interesting stuff. Squarp.
Yeah, Squarp. They're doing amazing stuff, Squarp are. Is it Squarp or Squarp?
I don't know.
Squirp. It depends where you come from.
I think it's like from a comic strip, isn't it? Squarp.
Yeah. Well, that's the mood moog squirp squarp, I suppose. Same sort of.
Let's call
the whole thing off.
Squarp, like square.
You say
like square pusher.
I say squirp.
I say squarp.
I say squarp. That's what I read, but that doesn't say it.
There's the Anima Phi as well, isn't there? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's right.
And the new polyphonic one, which did the Kickstarter. So there's a desktop and there's a keyboard version. So I didn't really have the cash at the time the Kickstarter came out, but I'm watching that one really closely because as well as the physical modelling stuff, it's got a lot of weird oscillator types, and I'm a bit of a weird oscillator, fan. As I'm sure
Nick Howes makes a good point in the chat room that they might all be old Ercan people. Of course, Ercan famously was set up in the basement of the Pompidou Centre. I remember going there as a kid, and that was a sort of, I think C Sound. There's a whole load of stuff that came out of there that's really been GRM taken tools on, and GRM tools. There's loads of stuff that sort of came out of that. So maybe that's true. Maybe this is just that's what happens, folks, when you have national investment in the arts. Good stuff happens. Although perhaps it is quite somewhat niche. It's not exactly the petrochemical industry or
France does that though. France believes in art, like or certainly more so than Britain.
But not in pensions. As they're discovering, much to or stuff, But anyway, I mean, we can talk as a country, yes. But I suppose all of this stuff is changing. It becomes more of as the commodification of all creative output becomes content. It's very hard to. Yeah, you just say, well, actually, rather than go to music, I will just subscribe to the Roland AI music library thing. And maybe if you could download the MIDI for all of those things, you would actually be able to do that. I mean, that seems to make total sense, doesn't it? The fact that you could, if they voiced it themselves with their own, their decent technology, then it would sound a heck of a lot better. But anyway. Sure. I don't know. What do I know? Where we go? We got to 5 o'clock. Gosh, this happened quick. Is there anything else that we wanted to talk about? I don't really want to go to. We could talk briefly about the Erica Synths Bullfrog. This was announced. I think I don't think it was at. Was it a Super Booth? I can't remember if it was. Cartridge-based sort of educational synth in conjunction with Richie Hawtin, of all people, who's not necessarily someone you would automatically go to in terms of synthesis and education, but it looks a bit like one of those SSL audio interfaces, and the plugin. I think actually, if I scroll down, there's no videos or anything on it yet. I think it's still in development. Let's have a look. So there are all these cartridges which you can attach to it, which are let me see. There's gosh, you put a moustache on him, that would be an unfortunate photograph. Voltage controlled oscillator, noise controlled envelope generators. There are things that you can plug in that give it all of these things. I don't know. It looks interesting. I wish I'd seen it at Super Booth, but I think it was very much in the concept. I think it's coming pretty soon. So hopefully, this would be, because often things that are brought out as toys can be much more useful than just for education. Gaz, you were, I think you mentioned this briefly, sort of pre-show, didn't you?
No, but
didn't you? Somewhere you talked to Bullfrog. Somebody. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll let you off the hook, Gaz, while you compose yourself. We'll go over to Paulee.
So what I liked about it, it's of course got a full kind of classic path through, and you can when you don't plug a cartridge in, you've got essentially quite a classic subtractive synth architecture. But then because everything is kind of routed through that cartridge port, when you plug stuff in, it gets rerouted. Different things get rerouted, so you end up with essentially a different patch synth. And I believe there's one cartridge for it, which is like a tape thing. I'm not entirely sure if it's a real tape,
a little looper.
Like
I think it's it's like a looper. Yeah,
I think it might be like a looper.
Just a recorder.
Yeah, like a little recorder that you can route through the different. It goes through the different architecture. So I thought that was absolutely brilliant idea, and being a sort of ex-Xennial, I have a big affinity for cartridges. On my Sega Mega Drive or Super Nintendo or whatever. So there they are. It's a big selling point for me. Plugging cartridges.
That's the
things.
better. Yeah, that does
look still blow on them though to get them to work. Because that used to be an issue with dirty cartridges.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, cartridges, I'm trying to think of a history of plug-in cartridges in synthesizers. Is sort of littered with...
the Buchla, of course.
Casualties, I suppose. Buchla, yeah.
I suppose Buchla has still got it. I mean, Erica Synths have their own Pico system.
Oh, yeah.
The Thaco have just done their Effects Boy, which does take cartridges. Yeah. But also Erica Synths have their own Pico System 2 or 3, one or the other, which is exactly the same concept. The same idea. In fact, I think they're even compatible with the same cards. So they have already had a go at this. And you can get a blank card that you can stick your own components in order to mess with stuff, I suppose, with signal routing and what actually is happening to the signal along the way. But it's a beautiful little thing. I mean, I think building a synthesizer to teach people synthesizers is really, really hard. It ends up being expensive. I've seen a few people do it, particularly in modular, because it seems like the perfect place to do it. Build a little synth, but then suddenly you've spent $2,000 just doing a monophonic voice, So for Erica Synths to give it a go, a little bit like their EDU DIY ones that they did, it's kind of that vibe as well, but just much, much nicer looking, and it should sound great. I'm hoping to get one soon. I mean, I think they told me end of July. Was I not supposed to say?
Brilliant.
But
no, I think it does. I think it does say somewhere in there that it's coming in the summer. So that makes brilliant. Right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for your review.
Yeah, no, really looking
when you're on holiday.
Really looking forward to it. It looks like a lovely thing. And also, I'd like to point out the documentation, because a few people, it's something that rarely gets mentioned. But on the website, the manual, it's got this virtual manual that takes you through it, which is just brilliant. I mean, because cheap synthesizers are available, but they're very rarely well documented. I would
that's very true.
suggest, and this looks excellent.
The Isla Instruments upcoming Caladan, which is a reworking of the what was it called? That
Parva.
Thank you. The Parva, Future Sonus Parva. It's a reworking of that into a case that looks. Oh, we can't quite see it, but the Isla 2400, and that's going to have, but it's not cartridges, but different boards going to be available for it, whiquich will allow you to bring in all sorts of like analog boards, I think.
Yes.
So it's not quite. Do you know about that, Paulee? Do you know?
I do. Brad just posted the other day that he wanted to put, the OPL3 FM sound chip that was in a lot of Yamaha keyboards and Sound Blaster. He wants to put a couple of them on a card with an analog filter. And I'm like, that's a crazy cool idea. That's absolutely brilliant. So that's the kind of thing he's gonna be doing with. Yeah, I'm gonna pester him and see if I can get on the beta kind of team, to test it and stuff, because it looks absolutely amazing.
Sounds very interesting. That actually, yeah,
really, and it looks beautiful. It carries along some of the design language, I think, of his other product, and and the 2400, 2400, and that lovely metal kind of construction, and I think it's going to be an absolute winner.
Well, that's where it seems like I know NAMM is moving back to January next year. So I think January, NAMM and, well, maybe not so much NAMM, but NAMM and Superbooth, between them, we're probably going to see an awful lot of releases. I mean, Superbooth this year was crazy full, and there's obviously a lot more stuff still in the pipeline, and that'd be interesting to see. It's nice to have some new, exciting stuff coming along on stream, because it does get a bit samey after a while, because just because of lots of people doing the same thing, and things take various different amounts of time to get to market, but they often have similar feature sets, and it's down to the sort of vision. But Erica Synths are very, they're sort of on fire, aren't they? They really are sort of pushing. Is it Gertz or Grit? His sort of, he's got a real sort of vision, and he's really kind of driving the driving force. I mean, I'm sure there are other people involved, but he's a great figurehead for the company. So there's more stuff coming along.
Of course, they had a physical modelling thing. Oh, they had a physical modelling thing at Superbooth, didn't they?
Yes, the pipe was not the pipe,
which I forget what that was called. Steam pipe, wasn't it?
Steam
like
pipe,
the Native Instruments steam pipe.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, lots of that stuff going on, and that was hardware, wasn't it? Steam pipe.
Yeah.
So yeah. Interesting. No, that's a good point. Okay, well, I think we'll probably just to end it there for this week. Just to remind people again, we do have another EMOM date, which is Friday, the 8th of September. If you want to get hold of it, I think I can post the link. Did I have There's a link here somewhere. If I press that, it might show up in the chat room. There we go. Bitly, there we go. And we've got Boo confirmed, battery operated orchestra confirmed.
Amazing.
Yes, that's Friday. So, and we're going to get a whole bunch of other people as well. So hopefully, maybe I'll work on getting Paulee to do it, but I know
that's fine.
I know that you're a busy person, so maybe you will, maybe you won't, but I'll try. And as ever, they're always great fun. So yeah, do get involved with that. But thank you, everybody. Thanks, Gaz. So you're doing a show tonight, 8 p.m, right?
And I just realised I'm playing a gig with Steve Davis in Cardiff, if anyone fancies this, on the 4th of August. And we're playing on a rooftop of this old antiques place in the centre of Cardiff. It's a really funny place.
Risky.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed the weather's going to be good. But that place is kind of interesting because it's an old holdout, this little antiques place has held out, and all these like modern high rises have surrounded it.
Wow.
It's this old crusty little antiques place, and on the rooftop. So we're going to be playing on the Friday night there. It's a little festival. It's called Tough at the Top. So if anyone's around Cardiff way, 4th, that's amazing. With Steve Davis, we're doing a little duo. So if anyone's around, that will be a fun gig. But yes, and also I'm going to be streaming tonight, 8 p.m. So please join me for that. I might talk more about the gig and some other things there.
Excellent. Thanks. Yeah, great. Okay, yeah. And Robin, thank you very much for joining us and battling through with the technical issues and showing us a bit of that kind of Korg Gadget, which ultimately, as you said, is somewhat disappointing as a user experience. Probably much more fun for us to watch you wrestling with it than it was to actually be doing it by the sound of things. But appreciated.
Yes.
What's next for you?
No worries.
Your monthly shows, is that out tonight, or when's it going to be?
It will probably be tomorrow by the time I finished editing it. I've got that coming up. Something else that's just about to emerge is a modular synth library project I'm working on, which you'll learn more about possibly in my Molten Monthly, and then I'm live streaming on Sunday. We can talk about it then. But it's a blind driven idea. It's never going to work, but you just never know, do you? You just got to keep throwing things in the air, and something will work at some point.
Yeah,
I'll come back and tell you all about it.
That's what Roland's philosophy is.
Excellent. Except Robin's much more nimble. Yeah, excellent. And Paulee as well. Thanks very much for joining us. And when's your film out? Is that soon? Is the soundtrack that you'd be working on? Is that coming up soon?
Yeah,
it must be sometime.
We're hoping to get. Yeah, he's been sending me loads of sketches of cool arcades and pinballs and stuff with my music over it, and it's looking and sounding absolutely amazing. So.
Oh, what, you mean you've done the music and he hasn't shot any footage whatsoever?
No, he's shot
good.
Too much footage. If anything, but yeah, we're hoping to have it finished by August, and then hopefully a holiday release. like Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that, because that's the time everyone gets a bit nostalgic and, you know, teary-eyed for the youth. So it'll hopefully be quite popular. But yeah, other than that, of course, I'm still working away at Magical Synth Adventure, the channel. So I'm going to film some more content today. If anyone by now hasn't seen my last documentary, all on the Amiga sound chip and early history of soft synths, then please check it out, because it's
you've been getting some great traction with that. There's interview for Attack magazine, wasn't it, and a few other places it's been featured as well.
Digital music and stuff like that. So CDM, it's been good.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, folks, thank you very much. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. It's been a great show as ever for me. I can only speak for myself. I hope it has been for you all as well. And we'll be back next week as ever. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Take care now.
Hey.